Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Cybersecurity Insiders webinar, where we will be discussing the fears, hopes, and plans for AI in cybersecurity, and diving into some of the interesting results from a recent survey on AI in cybersecurity. I'm Holger Scholze, the founder of Cybersecurity Insiders, a community that proudly serves over 600,000 cybersecurity professionals. Now, before we begin, let me share some quick housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions window in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll answer your questions during the Q&A session later on. And additional materials are available for download in the handout section, including the recent 2023 AI Cybersecurity Survey report that we'll be discussing today in detail. All right, let's get started. A new survey produced by Cybersecurity Insiders in collaboration with Enea, Arista Networks, and Zscaler reveals that cybersecurity professionals are both, deeply concerned about potential harm from, offensive and rogue AI, and at the same time they're eagerly, almost embarking, right, on very ambitious plans to integrate AI-enhanced cybersecurity tools into the heart of their own organization's cyber defenses. Now, first, I would like to express my thanks to Enea, Arista Networks, and Zscaler for supporting this important research and your invaluable contribution to the insights that we're going to discuss today. Without further ado, now it is my pleasure to welcome our panel of industry-leading AI experts from Zscaler, Arista Networks, and Enea to present and discuss the surprising and sometimes seemingly contradictory, hopes and fears and plans for AI in cybersecurity that were revealed by the survey. And first, it is my pleasure to introduce Laura Wilbert. And Laura will be our moderator for today's panel discussion. She's a senior industry analyst at Enea. And welcome, Laura. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you for hosting us. And thank you for undertaking this important project with us. And if we could, I'm going to take just a moment to introduce our expert panelists. I'm really thrilled to have them here. This is a subject kind of near and dear to my heart, going back a long way in AI machine learning, particularly natural language processing. So I'm excited to be talking about this topic, and especially with this amazing panel. So first up, we have Gary, who is the head of threat intelligence, threat research, threat detection at Arista Networks. Amin, who's sitting here next to me, who's the Enea VP of R&D in the traffic intelligence. And then we have two esteemed colleagues, friends from Zscaler, Hanchen Zhang, who's principal data scientist, and Rick Shang, who's senior manager machine learning engineering. All right, so we're going to go through now our survey results. I'm going to present them quickly. They're kind of naturally falling into three thematic categories: fears, hopes, and plans. So I'm going to present the results of the survey for each section, and then we're going to stop and do a panel discussion. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A session. So please be sure and get your questions in. If we run short on time, I promise we will have a follow-up in which we will address the top questions we didn't get to in the webinar. So stay tuned for that. Now, let's look first at a logical question. What do you expect in the near future to be the type of attacks that are made more dangerous by AI? Coming in at number one was phishing attacks, followed by social engineering, malware attacks, and closely behind that, identity, authentication, and fraud. Next thing we'd asked, in the race between offensive AI and defensive AI, a large majority, 62%, expect offensive AI to outpace defensive AI. Only 10% were placing their bets on defensive AI, and 28% were not sure. Next, we asked cybersecurity professionals, how close do you think the world is to having a malicious AI out there that can evade most known cybersecurity threats? And a really surprising 76% are somewhat, or think we are somewhat close to very close, sometime in the next few years, to having some sort of AI that can outpace, that can outwit all our known defenses. In fact, a quarter think that, a little bit over 26%, think we are very close to such a situation. In fact, if we may be right now have a malicious AI out there already that can evade most of our defenses. Next, we asked about rogue AI. Are you concerned about rogue AI, defined as an application that becomes fully autonomous and behaves dangerously? 77%, the overwhelming majority, are somewhat to significantly concerned about this. In fact, more than a third, 35%, are significantly concerned. So, panelists, these results, this level of fear, even pessimism, was more pronounced than I was and that I anticipated. I would like to hear from you, Gary. Maybe you wouldn't mind, if you wouldn't mind, talk to the second point that people brought up, which is this actually a very pessimistic view of offensive versus defensive. Would you mind taking that?
Sure, if people wouldn't mind me fueling that pessimistic view. Well,
we started off on a pessimistic.
Yeah, I guess when I think about a pessimistic view, there's kind of to me, there's a forward-looking element of that, but I can't help but starting with sort of the backward-looking view. That fuels kind of my concerns here in this area. But if you're very familiar with generative AI, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and the other types of tools, you can't really go in there and ask them to develop exploits for you, right? It's going to come back and say, sorry, I don't do that. And so the prompt engineering that we're seeing in the underground is just phenomenal. And sort of a little funny story is, we have some data scientists that are Google Tech Top kind of data scientists, and I went to one where somebody was helping me with a prompt, and I kind of showed it to him, and he was like, wow, this is some really smart techniques in here. I haven't seen this done before. I haven't seen this anywhere else. I'm laughing. I'm like, well, no, I wasn't the smart one on this one. I learned that from the dark web. I learned that from the hackers, like these kind of techniques to prompt these models to produce things that that they're not supposed to be producing. And so, so we have this, kind of the point there is a lot of the pessimism that I hear about is very future-looking theoretical. And, one thing I would want to really enforce for people is this is not a theoretical problem. Like, this is a today, really yesterday. This has been happening for a while. But if we do look forward, that's where things get a little more scary for me. And so, we kind of step back and say, well, why is generative AI so revolutionary in the first place? And I'm sure the colleagues on the call here are already thinking, well, decoder only transformers and this elegant, beautiful math. And I mean, how many answers do you want to that question? But if we step back and kind of generalize it more, we know that generative AI is not general AI, right? It's not like the sentient kind of being. But what's fascinating to see is when you watch people interact with it. And I'm sure everybody here, all of us on the call, everybody listening, we've done it. We've seen our colleagues do it. Like, when you see people interact with it, they interact with it like it is general intelligence. Right? Like, we get really childlike with it, which is another way of describing that might be we become really unguarded with it, which may be another way of describing it is that we become exploitable. Now, what they're predicting for the next step is what's called planning. And you might think, well, wait a minute, I use ChatGPT to plan my vacations and stuff. It already does planning now. And no, this is different. This is a very iterative, being able to interact with other systems, sort of come up with your trip plans, make phone calls based on setup plans, based on the feedback it gets, set up alternative plans, look into other systems, like really kind of iterate and make steps and make changes to actions in the future based on what it learned in the past in a totally different way than what we're doing right now. And so you combine all of this, right? And you think about the way, that Rex and Huncho were talking about, phishing, and it's still you have a human in the middle who's kind of a go-between. Well, now you'll be able to scale that in some pretty, I think, ways that we are really far behind on thinking about how to deal with. And they're predicting planning AI probably in about 5 years from now. So, short story here, very long story made short. I think the pessimism is warranted in this case.
So thanks, Gary. That is very interesting and very, very sober. And when you talk about this planning AI, that's maybe 5 years out. I don't know if we're crossing the line into, again, this idea of rogue AI, which is a tremendous concern out there amongst the community. And the question was very brief and not, didn't go into a big definition, but I think most people probably had in mind this idea of maybe of artificial general intelligence, where some people will say we're a long, long, long way off, and other people will say we may be evolving towards that right now as we speak. Do you think, Gary, that some of what that fear? Do you think some of this fear is around this idea of general AI?
So I promise.
Or is it just more where we are right now is scary enough?
That's it. I was going to say, I promised up front not to be soapboxy in the very first question. Boy, I failed that one. So on this one, I'll be quicker. Of course, rogue AI, AGI threat. I don't discount that or discredit it. But to me, it's a much further problem out. I don't think planning AI gets us there. And so in short, I think we have some really big problems on our hands already. We haven't seen the discussion on them really. We're already there. That stuff's going to get worse. And to me, the rogue AI argument is a bit of a distraction from what we really need to be focused on right now.
Yeah, I think we definitely have our plates full as it is right now. What do you think of that idea of this fear around rogue AI?
I think the fear is warranted, but maybe more so in the sense of poor design and poor quality dataset that cause AI to act dangerously in an unpredictable way. I think it's related to this. I'm a bit concerned about how we seem to be magnifying a long-standing, GIGO issue, garbage in, garbage out, on a large scale. The replication of this GIGO could potentially lead to perilous outcomes, and that's why the quality of the data set used to train AI-powered system can significantly impact the performance, accuracy, fairness, and also generalizability of the AI-powered system. So that's why we think, and I think colleagues here would agree on this, that it is essential to carefully curate high-quality datasets to develop a reliable and unbiased AI system in order to eliminate any risk of dangerous unpredictability leading to this kind of rogue AI.
Yeah. So some of the danger comes from either bad data or bad algorithms. Do you guys agree as well that part of it may just be people programming AI in a way, developing models that just that are poorly designed, that behave badly, not out of nefarious, but just sort of bad instructions, bad materials?
Yeah, I mean, you're pushing some buttons for me, Laura, and I'm biting my tongue, and so I'll try to summarize and say, look, we have AI developers writing open letters about the threat of AI, and then going to Capitol Hill and giving congressional testimony about, hey, it's fine, we can self-regulate. That's what we need to be afraid of, in my opinion. Is what we're hitting on here is track record of self-regulation, and this is a pretty serious threat.
Yes, and yeah, I was thinking back when you had mentioned that about it going into and talking about the regulation of Eliezer, his Yudkowsky, when he said, let me find the quote, that if we held anything in the nascent field of artificial general intelligence to the lesser standard of engineering rigor that we apply to a bridge meant to carry a couple of thousand cars, the entire field would be shut down tomorrow. Now, do you think that's fair? Do you think that's going too far in terms of the amount of rigor, or is it more? Are you seeing regulation as being something that's more needed, more so than internal self-discipline?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. There's so many facets to this. Like, first of all, I think it was in Brenner made the quote, if I remember right, about like when it comes to getting this one right, we don't have climate change scale of time to deal with this. And you look at how we've dealt with that subject, right? And not to bring in all kinds of hot button topics now, but these are very equal sort of topics in their severity and opinions on it, right?
Maybe I can kick in. So yeah, obviously, like regulations are very important because this is a new thing, it's an emerging thing. I think it will take time for authority to come up, regulations or laws to catch up. But like for the organizations, like for like AI protection, we are also responsible to develop, some ethical AI or responsible AI to make sure our system are not biased. There are lots of like this kind of bias in our data, in our system, because like garbage data in, garbage data out, and this kind of thing is very hard compared to, let's say, traditional engineering. So we spend a lot of I think more than 50% of our efforts is putting on the QA of our AI system. And this QA is not like a traditional software engineering. You can easily design some test suites and you can look at the coverage rates and the pass rates, and you say, okay, our product is ready to roll out. That's not the same case for AI. Your AI is lots of, check the data quality, check the model, any kind of behavior, unpredictable behavior, and also check the deployment, any kind of vulnerabilities at the deployment level. All these aspects are very new, and I don't think there is any kind of quite agreed standard out there, or like I think we are still working on that across different organizations. But I would say yes, this is important. We are waiting for some guidelines from authority to set up some North Star we can follow. But as as a very kind of active member of this arena, we also want to contribute back to set up something. Okay, this is our, for example, we like at the Zscaler, this is what we set up. Maybe this is also useful for other vendors, right? I think I think at the end of the day, this is a very collaborative process. Together with all the authority participants, also even customers, together to design or come up with something which is happy for everyone.
Not easy stuff. We could probably go on about this for several more hours, but let's stop and let's turn to the brighter side and go through some hopes that they have for what we can do, because you're all out there doing great things and stopping attacks every second while we're speaking, so we don't lose track of that. So let's look at hopes. Okay. So when we ask what are some of the areas that you most hope, some specific benefits you'd like to see, all right? Improve better threat detection, that came in number one. The next one, the improved vulnerability management, that the full question actually mentioned vulnerability assessment and predictive analysis, which is interesting, doing more prediction of where there's going to be problems. And then some things related to security operations, accelerated response time, improved defense scale, etc. Improved global visibility. I mean, that's what we do. Yes. And again, more lower false positives and automation to help with some of the talent shortage. Now, the next, when we ask what cybersecurity domains would be made stronger by AI, Number one, intrusion detection and prevention. Then after that, app security, security ops, data security, and IAM. So some of these same areas where they feel like we're going to get hit the most, there are also areas where they expect defensive AI to have some good capabilities. So interesting. Next, in terms of promising AI ML technologies, deep learning. People are hoping out there you'll come up with some deep learning to help detect malware in encrypted traffic. Natural language processing, using it for defense against phishing as it's being used on the offense side. So some fight fire with fire. Number three, transfer learning. Interesting. Of course, transfer learning is one of those things that belongs to the domain of general artificial intelligence. So maybe they're seeing there's our friendly AI going to step in and help perhaps with adaptation to new threat landscapes. So there's your top three. Success metrics. How are you going to measure whether what you're doing is working? And I found this one interesting. Hopefully we can talk about that for a moment, but what came in number one was cost savings. After that, faster response time, reduced false positives, and fewer security incidents. Now, let's go through and talk a little bit on the hope side. Now, thinking through some of these advancements that people were hoping, some areas where you'd make some improvement, just in general, what are some things you can share that you guys are doing right now that's making a positive difference with AI for your customers as we speak? And do we have a volunteer who wants to go first? Amin, do you want to start the ball rolling?
I can take that one. So yes, the respondents identified intrusion detection and prevention as the domain that they think will most benefit from AI. And we agree on this one because this is one area where we are helping with today. So that's great that the poll gave this as number one, because just recently we have released the new Cosmos Threat Detection SDK, which incorporates core Suricata functions and combines them with our flagship deep packet inspection engine, the IX engine, to provide advanced IDS capabilities in an SDK form factor, which represent today a world premiere. And we all know that there is and there will be a ton of innovation around AI-powered threat detection system to let's say fill the gap from what the signature-based kind of detection can do. AI will complement this for all, this zero-day type of for the 0 days. Yeah, we will need such models and such AI to complement this, and that will analyze. This AI will analyze this vast amounts of network data, learn from historical data, and continuously adapt to identify anomalies on potential security threats. And where we jump in from a DPI point of view and from a threat detection SDK, so both engines we are providing to our partners, we are somehow building the foundation for this innovation around AI-powered threat detection by helping to cut the time, let's say, to cut the time to market and strengthen the competitiveness of our partners while building such new AI for threat detection. And we all know that's a need for today and for tomorrow. This is really expected to grow because we all know that security and threat detection based on signatures is good, but it has its limits.
Mm-hmm. Especially in an AI world. Great, thank you, thanks. And now maybe Rex?
Sure, sounds good. So I just wanted to mention that, we're all here practicing, partitioning, like AI and ML, but we obviously, want to leave no stones unturned, right? We're leveraging AI and non-AI techniques to lower the risk of these, advanced threats that is related to AI. So, I mean, like I can talk about some of the more specific things. As Zscaler, we introduced ML AI URL categories. Okay, these can be used to block access or extending these sort of caution-based access so that we can coach user, be on the lookout, beyond this risk of these generative AI tools. And in cases, right, we can customer can choose to render applications in browser isolation. Okay, this is to prevent real phishing, sending out clicking on like phishing links that downloads malicious software. And also we can render AI applications in this browser isolation. We allow the user interactions, but restricting like clipboard use, so disallowing people like uploading or copy pasting code and sensitive information towards that, right? So I touched up a little bit on the DLP part of it, and I think there's more DLP that can be used to avoid leakages of any kind of like sensitive data that is that can be uploaded. And obviously, nowadays, the vulnerabilities of the data leakage is not just limited to text. We needed to have multimodal DLP, and this, so that speech, image, videos, and beyond, those type of information can be protected. So these are things that are already available. And also behind the scene, we're leveraging like AI ML to enhance the safety, right? So we treat AI as a force multiplier for the security IT experts. We built ChatGPT-like large language model as a co-pilot to help explore and hunt for threats, with greater efficiency. Now that you can go through a lot more data and a lot easier at identifying these issues. And also to keep up with ever sophisticated text. We mentioned about Worm GPT, the use of that, generating new malicious, software, right? We're also leveraging AI on the defensive side, obviously, to work on, dealing with phishing detection, these sort of business email compromise detection, as well as like bot detection. So bot related to the malware that were generated by these generative AI methods. So thousands of like malicious host names they were detected by our AI and ML mechanism, and including varieties like Cobalt Strike, Quackbot, Agent Tesla, and so forth. Okay, and one more thing I wanted to mention is that so with this use of ML AI, so far I mentioned about the detection side of it, right? So we are advancing into the prediction side. So this gives our security team the time and the chance to deal with all of these advanced threats. Okay, Han-Chen?
Yeah, so maybe I can bring up a real-world example about maybe around the efficient and effective SecOps. So it's like some feature we developed recently and rolled out as well. So we have one product called ZPA, which stands for Zscaler Private Access. So one feature of ZPA offers allows organizations to segment their applications based on policies. So this ensures that the employees of that organization only have minimum privileged access to the internal applications, and therefore this can minimize the internal attack surface. So for example, I'm in the AI and ML team. I don't have the access to finance or revenue data. So even my account gets compromised. There is no risk for gets that revenue and sales data leaked, right? So this is like a very important way to reduce or minimize the attack surface. But in reality, doing that is not very trivial. You can imagine some of our clients, like Fortune 500 companies, they have tens of thousands of employees, and with hundreds of thousands, even millions of applications. To going through, manually inspecting all the application and the employees' interaction between all the, between the employees and applications is very, takes weeks or even months of time. Sometimes even like prohibitively expensive, because this is also not a static thing. because there will be always like a new teams gets created, new employees join the company, and there's some applications gets deprecated, and a new group of applications gets launched. All this kind of thing is, basically it's impossible to maintain and keep updating this manually. So we leveraging AI to do that. So with our our ML-based intelligence application segment can automatically identify application segments and put the right zero trust access policies on them. So the model does this by continually studying and running different signals of the applications. For example, like their user access patterns, engagement patterns, and what kind of port numbers they are using, what protocol these applications have. So in this way, we have a very all comprehensive kind of view of different applications and group them together and then present to the the security team of the companies. So for them, then it will be very light. Just click a few buttons to approve or deny a few suggested policies. We work on this new features on customers, and many of them has witnessed a significant reduction in the number of exposed internal applications, and at the same time, their labor cost to maintaining this. Yeah, so this is some of, I think, very impressive things we have witnessed in terms of improving the customer's efficiency and effectiveness at the same time.
Yeah, that's really fantastic, and that's a very good point. Using the AI, particularly for microsegmentation and everything that you guys do around zero trust and the browser isolation is, I think, in response to some of the pessimism, I don't know that everybody really deeply appreciates how the amazing innovation going on around reducing risk, reducing attack surface, so that at least if something there does happen, and we have to assume it will, with offensive AI, that you can stop that. And also fighting fire with fire, turning a LLM and a GPT, using it for the defense side. So that's beautiful. And Gary, cool things you guys have out there.
Yeah, Laura, it's funny you mentioned the pessimism side of things, because as I was sitting here listening to everybody, I realized, boy, I sure did sound pessimistic about AI in general up to this point. But I echo what everybody said. I am also a huge advocate of AI too, and for all the reasons we use it. And so it's very high level. We use it to identify devices. Just based on raw traffic, we're identifying devices. We're classifying devices. We're based on the fingerprints of these devices that we derive from data science. We can watch these devices move between networks, and we know that even in the absence of log data or other information, just based on the behaviors of the devices, we know it's device A, and it moved from this network to that network, or whatever the case is. Profile the behavior of devices, as I mentioned even earlier, kind of using AI/ML for identifying behaviors and uncommon behaviors and applications and all of these things. And so it all comes together. We have a really recent example, and I believe our managed detection service and IR team just recently gave some presentations on this. I hope so. But we found some ransomware actors or operators moving around a network, compromising their phone system and using that to pivot around the network, which you can imagine, no system really has built-in detections for something like that. And this is, clearly, the types of problems that I think well-designed AI systems excel at. Countless cases of unannounced red team audits, and the types of red teams that are using their own bespoke, custom developed tools to simulate very targeted APT type attacks. And the thing that all these cases have in common, it's why you use NDR in the first place, is it's the last line of defense. Like, our job is to detect the stuff that all the controls, all the prevention, all the everything else has missed, and we continually detect these breach systems that breaches do happen. It could be phone systems, it could be these custom developed tools, it could be the the folks in the underground using generative AI to develop custom tools. But we're able to do this again because of AI. So just totally echo what everybody else was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you guys do amazing things with user and entity behavior analysis. The anomaly detection that you've been doing for a long time is superb. And both what we were talking about with the zero trust, the ZTNA, the microsegmentation, that's, and the NDR, that's what we're seeing as well with all our technology partners. It's both NDR, ZTNA are both so super critical, both for AI and being able to find that point where you can both come and find what's really going on and very subtle detection of what's happening, and at the same time minimizing the attack surface and what damage can be done is super important, as well as just fitting with everything shifting to the cloud and everybody working everywhere and every kind of device on the network. So you guys are working right on the pulse of I think some of the technologies that are making the biggest difference right now in fending off the offensive AI attacks. Plans. Now let's turn forward and see what people have in the pipeline, what they're thinking now that we know what they're afraid of and what they're hoping for. Now, interestingly, first, in terms of where people are in their maturity level, essentially 2/3 pretty much have nothing in place. They have no implementation, no strategy in place, or they're just beginning to formulate their strategy. I'm sure this is key too to a lot of size. So there's like 5% maybe out there that really have a very well integrated, well thought AI strategy and have full integration into the processes of AI enhanced defensive tools. So, but 2/3, 61% are very early, just beginning. Current uses of AI, getting back to what we were just talking about, that advanced threat detection and network detection and response, the ones that do have some AI and ML already deployed, the number one is using it for anomaly detection and network monitoring. And of course, for Amin, our group uses ML and AI for that network monitoring classification. Malware identification comes in next, and then threat intelligence analysis and prediction, user behavior analysis, and vulnerability management. So that's a good echo. So they are at least, they're adopting the tools right now that I think are really critical in making a difference at this first wave of AI attack front that we're facing. And budget plans. Right now, 24 a quarter have no % of their budget that's earmarked specifically for AI enhanced tools, 28% under 10%, and then we have 35%, 10 to 25%. So we have, a good over 50% that have nothing or under 10% at present. But over the next couple of years, the majority see 68% plan an increase here, only 6% plan a decrease. And for all we know, they may be people that are spending a lot. So people are planning on going from no spending to significant spending. And then to reiterate, what that conveys in terms of the budget priority is most of them say, 74%, that AI is actually, even though they may be nowhere in their journey right at this moment, that it's a medium to a top priority for their organization. And they think the impact on cybersecurity is going to be enormous. There's going to be a major increase, 61% concur. There's going to be a major impact on the industry. So the next, in terms of what's holding them back from developing some of their plans, number one, mentioning concerns about data privacy and security is always there with any kind of change. Not being completely sure about the effectiveness of AI, and this is where I think in the industry we can talk more about some of the innovations and the things that we're doing right now to make that impact. Regulatory and legal constraints. And I'm actually not sure how much of that is the constraints or feeling like they need more regulatory and legal guidance and help. Lack of skills and expertise and limited tech understanding. So these are the things they want to address that I think would help their organization further along on their journey. So on the plans, Now, the takeaway from that is that everybody is very early in terms of adopting tools, dedicating their budget, having a plan, and they, at the same time, they really want to go fast, putting the budget in. They think it's hugely important. So they're kind of trying to go from 0 to 60. So I was wondering if you guys had just some advice, some things to keep in mind as they're trying to close that gap. Does anybody want to go first? I will point out if not.
I can go first.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, we have like lots of sharings and learnings at Zscaler about adopting AI. So I think most out of all the factors, I think one thing is very important is like embracing AI in cybersecurity or actually in any technical verticals is a holistic strategy, and it needs a very strong support and commitment from top leadership. So at Zscaler, we are very lucky, like our CEO and all other executive officers, they all have this kind of mindset, like from legal, from infrastructure, data, even PR, all the surrounding of like a functional departments, they have already kind of already prepared mentally to embrace AI. Because no doubt, like AI would be the #1 transformative technology in cybersecurity. However, its successful integration necessitates a cultural shift and a top-down approach. Leaders must champion AI adoption, drive these cultural changes, allocate resources, and build a good infrastructure for the AI implementations. Why I say infrastructure is not only necessary technical infrastructure, it also includes like legal and privacy and data management. All this kind of aspects should be covered. And at the same time, organizations should also ensure that all the cybersecurity research team get decent training and tools to leverage the state-of-the-art tools in their day-to-day work, like invest in this talent and education as well.
Fantastic. Thanks. And Amin? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I totally agree with what the colleague have said on on this topic, on how we can advise, and I agree that we need to convince, let's say, decision makers to believe in AI without selling like AI as being a magical thing that will solve all the problems. We need to keep realistic and pragmatic in let's say evangelizing such technology. And as we are partner to technology solution providers, and many of them are likewise seeking to close big gaps fast in terms of AI. The first advice I would give is that we need to remember that great AI solution, and I will emphasize once again the importance of data and data set in every AI project. And we need to remember that great AI solution begins with high quality data. And in our case at Enea, our partners trust us to deliver such quality data that is accurate, comprehensive, relevant, and also in real time to meet their performance needs. And we see that our partners are making amazing thing with this data we provide. So yes, first thing, put a lot of effort in curating your data or choosing the right partner to provide you with this data on which you will build your AI initiatives.
Very good. Excellent. Thanks. And Gary?
Yeah, I love listening to that, everybody's answers, because it made me realize I was thinking of, I think, similar issues, but from a different angle. So I guess given that the vast majority of respondents are so early in the cycle, either haven't started and getting ready to start or have barely started, it makes me think to the beginning of the journeys I saw along the path of doing the same things of AI. And by the way, I should mention the way I was thinking about this from a different angle is, I guess I was thinking about it from the angle of organizations kind of buying I think it was said, the magic AI solution, right? When you look out in the industry, there's no shortage of magic AI solutions, and thinking about, okay, well, how do you cut through the noise and really evaluate solutions like this? And anyways, that's what got me thinking about, to the beginning, kind of my journey on this path. And so I had the fortune being the first, good fortune being the first employee at the EDR company that has been credited with being the first to do malware detection at scale using very formal neural networks, AI. That was more effective than AV. It was the first one to be more effective than antivirus, and sort of, I think, largely led to the launch of the EDR industry. And one of the things that we ran into was creating these detections or producing these detections that were more accurate than we saw in any other malware identification technology, but explainability was a really big issue for us at first. And so we detect something and tell you, hey, this is bad, and then the user goes, okay, what is it? And we go, it's bad. All right, is it spyware? Is it adware? Is it malware? Is it, what kind of ware is it? Ransomware? And we go, we told you it's bad. And this is 2012, or over 10 years ago at this point. And I look around the industry and I look around, sort of these quote unquote market-leading solutions, and we still see the same thing. It still exists today. And so as you look at solutions, if you're not, I think we were kind of talking about this from the angle of building your own, but if you're buying solutions, and this applies if you're building them too, explainability matters enormously, because that dictates how effective you're going to be using the tool. If you're getting detections and you don't know what they are, that just creates an enormous additional workload that you didn't have before, because at least before you knew, hey, this was Cobalt Strike, or hey, this was Crackbot, or whatever the case is. And so explainability, which is really, I'm sort of implying labels there, but it's understanding how decisions are made in the model, right? And so that, because there's going to be somebody sitting there that gets the alert and ultimately has to make a decision, am I going to take action on this or not? Because we're getting alerts, from all over the place. And so explainability is critical for them being able to make a decision on taking action or not. And what we see in production is when explainability is poor, whether the alert is true or false, action isn't taken on it. So explainability, very critical. And the other piece is transparency. And people brought this up already. I think Hansha, you mentioned this, and it really resonated for me. But really being able to understand how that's your accent that you brought up too. Now that I think that, but you'll be able to understand how the models are made, how the models were made, and if you're working with partners or vendors, they should be able to go into detail on this with you. It's not getting into the secret sauce. There's other secret sauce that they can certainly protect, but really being able to convey to you how ultimately accurate those models are. That's what this really starts to get into. And that's what's going to dictate really how effective the platform or technology is. So ultimately, explainability, transparency to me are two of the biggest that I've encountered as landmines or pitfalls at the very beginning of this journey in the industry that I still see very pervasive as issues in the industry today.
Fantastic. Those are all such excellent points for everybody in terms of, looking from top leadership and having the investment there. So many of the things you talked about, for the customers could do in their own organization is what I think everybody should be looking for themselves in terms of their partners, customers, way to join to judge them as well. And that the model, I've told you before, Gary, what you guys do with the white box approach to your models and what you're doing too at Zscaler is it really builds a lot of trust. And I think that's really critical. I think there's so much going on. There's so much concern. There's so much confusion that having really open and honest and trustworthy partners matter. You know, you guys were a little bit worried. Were we being too pessimistic? But, you know, to my mind, I think that that's a good sign of a good partner to acknowledge that these concerns are real, these fears are real. This is a fastly accelerating, very quickly moving terrain. The customers have a lot of concerns, and what they need is people to acknowledge that and to say, okay, this is real. Here's what we do. Now we're short on time. Didn't want to cut off the great discussion. We have probably time for just a couple of questions. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I knew we'd have lots to talk about, so I will do a follow-up piece on Q&A. But Holger, if you wanna at least tackle a couple of questions, and then we'll follow up with our audience from there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, panel. That was excellent, by the way. Excellent discussion. But before we dive into the questions that are coming in, just a quick reminder, quick note to our audience. We would like to hear from you. So if you have any, questions, anything that you'd like to ask our panel, please type them into the GoToWebinar, questions window. And so this is a great opportunity to tap into, the expertise that we have here on the panel today. All right, so let's start with perhaps questions around predictions, right, on the future impact of AI. And one of the questions that came in actually from different folks in our audience is, what is your outlook on AI and cybersecurity over the next, say, 5 years? What will we see that's different from now?
So I guess I'll jump in first. I'm sure everybody has opinions on this one or thoughts on this one, and it goes back to something I was talking about earlier, and sort of that step function evolution of the way AI has been, evolving and applied. The class, what is called, we were calling classification. Is this thing good or bad, or what is the object in the picture? And as it applies to cybersecurity, right? It's, of course, what is the thing? What's identity? Is it bad? Is it good? What is the behavior? Who's the person? Things like that. And then we kind of evolved into generative AI, the generation, and I think my examples, that's where I got pessimistic. I think the offensive use of that technology is far outpacing the defensive use, but I am optimistic about the future. And when we get into planning, because when you get into that what we were calling planning earlier in the conversation, that's where you start getting into really what investigators and analysts and the people who come in and have to do all the work during a breach, which is when, again, all the controls, all the prevention, all the segmentation, all the detection, everything has failed. And we have some huge headline examples of that, even within the past few days, couple weeks. And so it happens in organizations using very sophisticated platforms and technologies. That planning, I believe, will have the ability to take what people are doing manually post-breach and move that into more of a real-time function. And so I'm actually very optimistic about the future of AI in security, its application, and its impact on reducing risk and threat to organizations.
I share a very similar view as Gary. Obviously, I don't know. It's hard to say what will be definitely in the future, but I'm anticipating a few key trends which will reshape the landscape. So definitely, from the attacker side and the defender side, both sides will intensify their deeper exploitation of AI. Like Aurora, like a fight fire with fires, right? With this, the arm race between both sides will intensify, with both sides leveraging AI to develop new attack methods and also the countermeasures, right? And this will increase to, I don't know, there were some novel AI generated attacks, but at the same time, it will also trigger or simulate the increased usage of AI for training and testing the robustness of the security system, right? Another thing in my mind is about, I think this one is it's very pioneering now, but I think it will be more prevalent. It's about privacy preserving AI solutions. So this is, this is very popular, I think, in the wearable devices at the moment, like your Apple Watch and other kind of gears for your fitness training. And as the concern of the data privacy and the security continue to grow, there will be great emphasis on deploying privacy preserving AI solutions for the cybersecurity applications. So it's not only for the personal wearable devices, but also for the cybersecurity applications. Techniques such as federated learning, also like secure multi-party computation and differential privacy. These pioneering concepts will be much more prevalent in cybersecurity area. These tools enables organizations to leverage more users' data without compromising data privacy. And it's also, will possibly promote the collaboration between different organizations to train, joint AI models by sharing their threat intelligence without exposing proprietary data.
All right, very good. Let's see. So the next question is about the impact on cybersecurity jobs, AI's impact on cybersecurity jobs. And the question is, how much do you make of the threat that AI could take security analyst jobs? Is this a real concern?
I'm so curious to see what everybody's opinion on this is, but mine is, if you're a tier 1 analyst, you should be spending every bit of your free time either doing whatever you can to become a tier 3 analyst or figuring out what your next career is going to be. And it's not only roles like that. I mean, we think about auditors, and for the same reason insurance companies want self-driving cars, because they make fewer mistakes than humans, and by analyzing all the data in real time and sort of identifying risks and changing course and etc. Like, I think there are so many roles in cybersecurity that are, for a variety of reasons, almost compelled to be replaced by AI, especially when we start getting into that planning sort of AI capabilities, or even just much more advanced generative AI.
Gonna do a quick follow-up questions. What's your time frame prediction on that? Are we looking at a year, 2 years out, longer term?
I think that there's certain types of roles that generative AI could potentially begin to. I'm a little more pessimistic. I don't think generative AI by itself is going to replace a lot of roles. I do think generative AI, if you've used it enough, you know that if you're not a domain expert, it looks really good, but if you are a domain expert, a lot of the information you get from it is not that great yet. I think even when it gets great, it'll be more to augment folks. But I do think the next evolution after it, which again is kind of being predicted within the next 5 years, and it seems like a very reasonable prediction to me, that we will absolutely see some larger scale replacement of roles.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. A somewhat related question is the next one that came in. How will cybersecurity researchers work in the era of AI? Will AI technology pose a threat to the cybersecurity researchers profession? Panel?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I'm completely with Gary. I don't believe AI technology is going to replace cybersecurity researchers' jobs. Actually, I think the integration of AI is likely to create new opportunities and make the cybersecurity jobs much more interesting, right? These security researchers, they possess a deep understanding of the threat landscape, attack techniques, and the very niche nuances of cybersecurity. They can think critically and creatively to anticipate new threats and devise innovative defense strategies. AI is expected to, like Jerry mentioned, augment their capabilities by automating some tedious and repetitive tasks and enable them to focus on more complex and strategical aspects of work. And at the same time, I'm working with security researchers on many projects. During the developing, training, and maintaining AI models, I need their domain knowledge, because this is their voices are very important in terms of selecting the right training data, if the fine tuning is effective or not so good, and also to ensure the final delivered AI system is robust, unbiased, and resistant to adversary attacks. All this kind of, along the whole development life cycle, from the data, data collection, feature engineering, model training, and the final QA, all the steps, you need this domain knowledge from the cybersecurity researchers. And at last, these cyber threats are not static. It's continuously evolving. You cannot say I trained the AI and work forever. There's no such kind of magic things over there. So with attackers constantly devising new techniques and tactics to exploit vulnerabilities of your existing model, the security researchers are needed to stay ahead of this development and adapt AI models accordingly and develop new countermeasures to address emerging threats. So yeah, so in conclusion, I think AI is expected to be complementary to enhance the work of the security analysts or researchers rather than replace them. And by automating this routine task and providing some quick and useful insights, AI can help this security analyst to focus on more creative, strategic work, and it will make I think it will make their life easier. That's what I'm anticipating.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you very much to everybody here for participating. Thank you, Gary and Rex and Hanshin and Amin and Holger for orchestrating the study as well. I think this is a really important topic, and I'm really glad that you guys were here to be able to share your insights into these very real concerns that are out there amongst the cybersecurity professionals on the front lines, but also to share with them a lot of the innovation that's going on right now, which I think is really mind-boggling and really encouraging as we look towards the future. So, my money's on you guys. I think you got this. And thank you very much for sharing and for the questions. Again, I promise we will do a follow-up and look through and see the top questions that came in, and maybe we'll have a chance to get back with each of you and put something together for the audience. Now, here's some links where you can download some more information on some of the products made by the companies that are here today. And then you'll also receive an email. With the email will be the report that you can download, and there'll be a link to the on-demand webinar coming soon. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.